The following podcast contains opinions from paid professionals. The information provided in this podcast is general in nature and not advice. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
Great to be back for another season of So We Think. Ben Way, great to have you in this snazzy new studio and to talk all things autumn racing.
Good to be here. It feels this is like the last time I got interrogated. Not guilty. It wasn't me.
After a little incident at the airport, hey?
Yeah, but I am guilty of waiting every single minute since our last episode to come back and launch into the autumn because from a New South Wales side of things, I mean, this is near on Christmas. Yeah. We have all the good horses here.
Let's talk about some of the big news items from the week that was, but also leading us into the Autumn Carnival with So We Heard. And the big story only a little while ago is that the jockeys have been confirmed for the two Coolmore Superstar colts for the Golden Slipper. Ryan Moore to ride Storm Boy and James McDonald to ride Switzerland. So breaking news. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are we suspected Ryan Moore was the big dog.
Bark.
And we have just found out that he is the big dog. Yep. The big dog's barked and they've listened. So, you know what? It's probably refreshing for a few jockeys to see James kind of not be second fiddle, but be told which horse he's going to be on, because I'm sure for plenty of it, he kind of has the choice. Ryan, I'm sure, wanted Storm Boy, and I'm sure James wanted Storm Boy. They're just the facts. It's the top seed. Ratings would suggest Storm Boy's the horse to beat. But in terms of a second option, let's face facts. We've got two big dogs, and they're going to be barking at each other down the straight, which will be brilliant, and Switzerland looks a live chance. I am interested, though, in James locking in Switzerland, given he has the ride on Gatsby's for Chris Waller, especially given how it played out last year, with Shinzo coming through the back door into the slipper and James opting to go a different direction with Godolphin in cylinder. So imagine if he rides Switzerland and he runs straight past Storm Boy only to get bloused by Gatsby's.
Yeah, so the big watch on Saturday in the Pago will be Gatsby's, because that form from that Canterbury maiden has utterly stood up.
How about O'Shea's thing yesterday?
Unbelievable.
At the midweeks.
At the Kenzo.
So they ran second.
Yeah. So Gatsby's, the big boom on him will have to be proven on Saturday, but James is locked in to ride Switzerland, so there'll be no, quote, jockeying to get off Switzerland and onto Gatsby's if he were to blouse them on Saturday.
Which means there's a great ride.
There's a great ride for someone up for grabs.
Assuming Gatsby's wins.
Correct. It's a fascinating slipper, though. I think all the chatter this week has been about how excited we are because we've got two real, genuine superstar colt contenders. They're both undefeated. Storm Boy coming out of that Magic Millions and that great win in the Skyline. And then Switzerland. He impressed me last Saturday in the Todman. I think I was fence-sitting a little bit on him, but after seeing what he did and how he's continued to improve and how he can settle in a different position if required has convinced me that he is a genuine contender.
You were undecided and sitting on the fence. I watched your post-race interview.
Yeah.
James, the omen bet for him is Switzerland because he sat on the fence. He was as neutral as they come post-race, and I think he fell a little bit in love too.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
I found it interesting that post-race he said, no, this is the horse to beat, and he was pretty adamant about it. I found that quite shocking, but considering, we'd all been we'd fallen in love with Storm Boy, but...
If you could be on any horse, who would it be?
Oh, now that the big dog's barked...
Yeah.
You do think maybe it's Storm Boy. I mean, I've been so impressed with what he did, particularly in the Magic Millions when he sat three wide the trip and just exploded and put a gap on the rest of the field. But then Switzerland, we know the way that Waller trains, and he has not peaked yet. They have not found the bottom of him. He hasn't reached his ceiling. So maybe he peaks in a Golden Slipper. The other thing we discussed on Saturday as well was the fact that Storm Boy's been up for a long time. Yes, he's had a little tip out here and there, but to win a Magic Millions and a Golden Slipper, God, you got to be good to do that.
You do. And you can't help but think that can't have been plan A. So maybe they had other horses in mind. And I still have Espionage just in the back of my mind.
Yep, and gets the services of Tommy Berry. Let's move on. Saturday sees the running of the All-Star Mile. And let's be frank, the field that is assembled is not all star. It's some star.
It has a star.
It has one star maybe in Mr. Brightside. Having said that, prior to Jenny, I thought she was so good through the Flemington Carnival. You know, she's a genuine Group 1 mare. What do? We can't keep going like this, back and forth, changing formats, changing the way you get in. Is it voted? Is it win and you're in? What do we have to do to fix this? Or is it unfixable?
Voting didn't work.
Nope.
So strike a line.
Nope, we can't do
Voting
voting again.
gone.
That's done. No.
This hasn't worked.
No.
So strike a line through that. Has autumn worked?
Yeah.
Do you give up the autumn? Because this was the big play to say, righto, you've kind of started to tread on our toes in the spring, so we're going to tread on your toes in the autumn. But it hasn't worked. So now I think, rightly or wrongly, the public perception is this is a waste of money.
Totally.
For a organisation and a sport that doesn't have it to give away. So where could that be better spent? A lot of people are saying pump up your feature races and make sure you solidify your spot in the spring. I'm not a huge believer there. I do think there's room for a new concept. I just don't think they've quite got it right. And I did see a bit of chatter about a 1,400 metre affair, but you would have to change the name. Like the name,
it's not the All-Star Mile then.
Yeah. Well, for one, it's not at the trip, but also, I think there's a stigma now, and I think that's unfair. And maybe living in Sydney, we're not getting the full experience.
I've been to the last 3.
But everyone who's coming up saying the same things.
I think I've been to the last 3 or 4 and worked them, and it has progressively gotten softer as the years have gone by. I agree with you. There's a stench about it now, not only publicly, but in the racing community. When you get a win and you're in ticket and you're going, nah, straight off the bat, we're not going there, that reeks of a problem. And I don't think that problem can necessarily be solved. I appreciate that they tried something new this year. It hasn't worked. For me, you either really revamp it in the fact that we don't run it over a mile, we run it over the 7 furlongs, we cap the prize money a little bit more, we make it a feature event but not worth a big $4-5 million, and we keep it at one track. The rotating of the tracks doesn't work. It wasn't till probably 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I work in racing, that I was like, oh, is that at Caulfield? Where's it at this year? Like, that's a disaster. Or we cancel it, we move on, we reappropriate the money into the big features. Do you know what, guys? You love the Melbourne Cup so much. How about we put that money into making that worth $15 million? Or why don't we create a specific sprint race for 3-year-olds in the autumn? Maybe, you know, we don't necessarily have that. We've got the big Coolmore race, you know, at Flemington in the spring. Why don't we look at that?
Well, the only reason my mind goes to 1,400, and it's probably just timing, is you've got your think about it's in your I wish I wins that are running in 1,200 metre races because that's where the prize money is. But they're not. They're not that. They're milers. So can you get the sprinters that want to extend, and can you get the milers who would drop back, as opposed to at a mile, strong race, big prize money? You've got to be a hardcore miler. And maybe Mr. Brightside, in a weird way, hasn't helped them.
I agree, but I also think I've seen that excuse used this week a few times, and I'm not buying it. I'm really not buying it.
I feel like Winks, for all of her strengths, almost killed off a couple of races.
Yeah, but
because then we had 4 editions of them being non-competes.
Yeah. There might be a smidgy of that, but I don't think that can be the reason that we can peg this year's field being subpar. Hey, I'll still watch it. I'll still be invested. I'm still excited. Who's you playing it?
No, you're spot on, Mr. Brightside. but you're spot on in that 2 weeks before it, we were on air hearing every single race, winning your ins, and they were all going, no.
Not even thinking about it.
To the point where Chris Wallace
sent an email. Yeah, I saw that.
Anyway. Can you see the favourite getting beaten? I would love Jenny to win.
Yeah.
And I do think the additional speed in the race means they might completely run a few like Mr. Brightside off their feet.
Yeah, because Buffalo River will be up on speed as well. Yeah. For me, my play will be an exactor. Mr. Brightside to win, Cascadian to flash home late and just run second.
The big white blaze.
I love him.
He's got a big race in him.
He does. And you know what? He's been first up. He did have a big race in him and things didn't go to plan. Yeah. I thought he was brilliant last start as well. So third up, I reckon we peaks over the mile. He'll flash home late. So the Exacta is my play in the All-Star Mile.
I guess from a Sydney side of things, all eyes towards the Coolmore Classic, and some have a lot to lose, some have a lot to gain. Some are pretty much there for a free shot at a big race and plenty of prize money. So with that in mind, we're going to put you in. This is an interrogation now. It's my turn, so let's do it. I reckon, knowing you the way I do, I reckon this will be the only time you get interrogated in your life. I can't see you committing too many crimes. Anyway, let's go. So who has the most to lose in the Coolmore Classic?
I think it's the Waller mares in both Zougotcha and Hinged. They're both proven Group 1 performers. With Hinged, she hasn't won in nearly 800 days, and that was in the Group 1 Surround Stakes like 2 years ago. So she has a lot to lose in terms of where she's at in her preparation. She got pipped by Hell Hath No Fury last start. That was unfortunate. I think we want to see her winning to know that she is still a genuine Group 1 contender. The stable obviously thinks she's going great guns, and that's good to hear, but we need to see it now as punters that she's capable of winning one of these big races. But also Zougotcha. We've spoken about how last preparation she just didn't come up. And one of those reasons was because she was being set on an Everest path. She was racing over the 1,000, the 1,100, the 1,200 to get her ready for an Everest. She resented that big time. And Chris Waller has admitted that was not the greatest of planning from him. The idea was there. He ran with it. It didn't work out. So now he's reverted back to what Zougotcha's all about. She is a mare who loves the 1,500 metres, and this is her race to win. But we need to see her winning again to know that she's truly, back in the black. She won that Millie Fox in really great style, beating Lady Laguna, who's since gone on to win a Group 1.
Prove to us it wasn't an aberration.
Yep. So I think the most to lose would be those two mares. Having said that, I think Zougotcha is the mare to beat.
Yeah. So do I think. I hope for my back pocket that's not the case, but I do think it. Most to lose we've covered. So let's do most upside, most to win.
The Victorian mares. You got nothing to lose travelling up the likes of Yonsei, Foxy Frida, even Deny Knowledge, like travelling them up the highway. They've all raced in Group 2, Group 3, a couple of them Group 1 company. They haven't won Group 1s, but they're horses who may as well have a shot at the title, may as well have a throw at the stumps, because there's nothing to lose out of it there. Especially for me, I take a look at Foxy Frida, and she runs super second up. She always really improves. I liked her run first up in that Group 3 down in Melbourne. Billy Egan comes up to Sydney to ride. I think she can run a really big race. But again, if she doesn't figure in the placings in a Group 1, it's all good. We go back to Group 2, Group 3 company and be very effective there.
Okay, so I assume they're each way plays.
Yeah.
Who's the on topper?
Zougotcha. She's the class mare. I know she's got to carry the weight and
back it up.
But everything, I believe in the programming this time around, and I believe she's being set for the right races this preparation. And I genuinely believe she'll add another Group 1 next to her name on Saturday. And I will have something each way on Foxy Frida. I think $7 the place. Just looking at her second up, if we get a little bit more rain, a little cut out of the ground as well.
Friday's your hope. I don't think we're getting much Saturday, and I hope we don't. I've got an early ticket on Samana, as you know, around the $16 mark. So I'm certainly hoping, and I reckon she's near bulletproof. She runs a race at bare minimum, up on speed, brave as the day is long. And I don't know whether it'll be Saturday, but I think she'll prove herself, if not to be the best in that crop, to be agonisingly close.
The 14 to the 12 to the 15 is the really interesting thing.
I've learnt not to question those things
I
anymore.
agree.
Yeah.
Don't question the genius that is Kieran Maher there. So I think she'll run a big race. She's won her last two. She's obviously a mare in form. That's always what you want to see. Sometimes you can do all the form in the world and look at all the replays and try and find a winner, but sometimes it's just staring you right there in the face. It's like it's written in the stars. All the numbers are aligning and things just come together. So we've got our plays for the weekend, according to the Weird and Wacky, starting with the best bred contender of the weekend, Ben.
Yeah, so that one I'm happy to play more of a role in. I don't know if I believe in the stars and the
Sometimes
horoscopes and the...
Depends how badly I'm going.
That said, if I put a bet on and it's the wrong bet, I cannot cancel the
Oh,
bet.
no, absolutely not.
Cannot cancel.
It's meant to be.
Even if it's the biggest bet of the day, it has to stay.
100%.
Just double down.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's one aside.
It's a superstition.
You did ask me about best bred. Divana, definitely the one that I wanted to highlight. By done deal, multiple Group 1 winner, absolute star. Known by a different name, albeit, when in Australia and winning those Group 1s. And then in terms of the dam, well, Stay With Me was 1,000 guineas winner, and by Street Cry herself. So particularly well bred. Maybe not for Saturday, maybe more for when you want it to win.
Yeah,
I reckon 14, 16.
Loved his run first up. He was blocked for a run. He travelled so strongly to the line that I backed him at 51s for the Champagne.
That's good.
About a month ago. So I'll be hoping that he can win in about a month's time, because I think he's definitely a colt with plenty of talent.
All right. Best name?
Love the way that Godolphin name their horses. They're always, I think, the best ones on the program. For me, Red Card in the Morris McCartan, first up winner. She is out of a mare called Penalty. So if you
That's
like,
about as straight up as Godolphin get.
I know. Sometimes you do have to really Google and find some bits and bobs there. You've got one from the same yard.
Parkour?
Yeah.
Are you a fan of The Office?
I haven't watched too much of The Office.
No?
Should I?
Yes, you should.
Okay.
And do
Thanks for
both
the
versions.
suggestion.
Yeah, British to start. You got it. But then venture into the US. There is a brilliant scene where they are performing parkour, and you will never look at the horse parkour the same.
Is it when you jump off buildings and whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is it relevant to The Office?
They have a scene where they're performing parkour and essentially just going parkour, parkour, parkour. Anyway, I can't do it justice. Just trust me and watch it. You'll absolutely love it. So they're the best names we've found across the card. What about?
And they're both Godolphin runners.
What about in terms of an omen? And we do like a royal connection when it comes to racing.
It's not been a terrific week for the royal family, and the photo of Catherine and the 3 children to celebrate Mother's Day that was pulled by news agencies because they feared it had been doctored. And Princess Catherine, she admitted that she dabbles in Photoshop every now and then, and sometimes things go a little awry. So our omen bet for the news cycle of the week, mystery shot in the last.
That was... How weird was that?
I don't know.
So like some
why she
fingers,
needed to get in there.
So some fingers were moved,
and the sleeves were adjusted,
and some hair was kind of blurred.
Hey, I'd always try and fill out my hair.
What was in the photo?
I don't know.
Do you edit your photos?
No, God no. Go look through my photos.
Have you ever edited a photo?
Never done. No, not in my wheelhouse. I wouldn't know how to.
People probably think I'm quite vain, but I've never even considered editing a photo.
Haven't you?
No. Yeah. If we're both telling the truth here, I reckon we're in the minority.
Ooh, you think
in our industry?
Do you think?
I have a couple I'd like to incriminate, but I won't.
Okay.
Let's get to a stats.
Okay. Stat bet of the day. We wanted to find something that not necessarily stats on paper, but let's talk about a trainer who's had a huge amount of success in a particular race in years gone by when it comes to setting fillies on a Group 1 path going forward. How about these names? Winx, Fox Play, Unforgotten, Very Elegant, Fun Star, Hungry Heart, all trained by the master that is
Chris Waller.
In the Far Lap Stakes, the race that all of those fillies won back in their 3-year-old year. He has 2 going around this Saturday, 5 fillies in the race up against the 10 boys. 2 to Levita, who, can you believe the price she started at last start?
No, $16 a place, and I almost cried. But see, I feel as though I backed her in the 1,000 guineas early. And I felt as though the spring and maybe into this autumn we were going to see that elevation. I haven't quite caught it yet, but the other one, it could be the Group 1 star in the making.
Mare of Mount Buller. She's a filly by Done Deal to be written by Tyler Schiller. She's won 3 of her 4. This preparation, she's undefeated. She's gone through the grades. Super Maiden, 64, 72. Steps up into black type company on Saturday, but she'll be on an Oaks path, I believe. And you get the feeling she could be something a little bit special.
You do. And he's got 2 boys in the race as well, but you just, having had a look at the history, you think, right, this is his launch pad for a Group 1 mare. And I dare say she is the one. Going to be a good race day.
Can't wait. Great card. Coolmore Classic, All-Star Mile down at Caulfield.
Can we get a selfie and doctor it?
What would you like to do? If you were to doctor a selfie, what would you do to
I'd
it?
like to lighten my skin so that we don't look
Oh,
weird
cry me
next
a
to each
river.
other.
Oh my God,
Is
that
Brad
bad,
Gray
am I?
out there? I don't know. You're good, actually.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Oh, cool.
I don't know. The milkman is my excuse for it. Well, Dad doesn't have a tan this good, so somebody has to have played a part. Better we
No
end it.
SPF 50.
No. I'm huge on sunscreen.
Okay.
And I have a yearly check. So to anyone out there, make sure that you do that as well.
Booking your yearly check is the final piece of advice. So we think for this first episode of the autumn. Back next week with plenty more to get through.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.